In the beginning, love was enough until life demanded more. Long ago, in a quiet community tucked away from the noise of the city, there lived a couple, Mr. and Mrs. John. Not the richest, not the most famous, but the kind of love they shared, it was loud enough to silence poverty. They were just 8 months into their marriage, yet their bond was deep, like roots of a tree that had stood for years. Their house wasn't the biggest. Their car wasn't the newest. But every morning, the neighbors saw Mr. John open the door for his wife. Every evening, they heard them laugh over dinner. And every Sunday, they walked hand in hand to church like newlyweds on a first date. To the outside world, Eunice was more than a wife. She was a blessing. Men in the neighborhood would whisper, "If only my wife was like her." Women admired how she treated her husband, how she kept their home in peace and beauty. Their love was goals, untouchable, until one day everything changed. It started slowly. Mr. John began to lose weight. He complained of fatigue. He was always tired, always restless. What began as just malaria refused to go away. Then came the hospital visit, then the test results, and then the words no young couple ever dreams of hearing. Mr. John's kidneys are failing, and without a transplant, he may not survive. The news landed like a bomb in their peaceful home. Eunice stood frozen, her hands trembling, her heart racing. How could this be? The man who just yesterday danced with her in the kitchen now had a clock ticking over his life. The cost of a kidney transplant was unthinkable. Their savings had already begun draining from endless tests and medications. But there was one more option. A donor. Not just any donor, a matching one. Mr. John's family stepped in. One by one, they visited the hospital. His mother, his father, his siblings. Hopes were raised, only to be crushed again and again. Until one day, the doctor called out a name. "We've found a match." His wife, Eunice. Everyone turned to her. Tears filled her eyes, not from fear, but from the weight of the decision. Her body stiffened as the room went silent. Whispers of, "Please, think about your husband," and "You're his only chance," echoed around her. She didn't speak for hours. That night, she stared at the ceiling, praying, wondering, crying. But love has a language louder than pain. So Eunice said yes. The surgery was scheduled. Fear gripped them both, but they held hands through it. Two souls, one fate. The operation was successful. They both came out alive, weaker but together. They had one kidney each now, but it didn't matter. Mr. John was smiling again. His parents were rejoicing. His siblings celebrated. And once again, the house became a home. Their love was tested, and Eunice had proven just how deep it ran. But little did she know, that same love she fought to protect would one day be used against her. Some people forget the hands that carried them out of darkness. Love is strange. One moment, it's a healing balm. The next, it's a slow poison. After the surgery, everything seemed to return to normal, or so Eunice thought. Mr. John recovered. His smile returned. His strength came back. But while his health improved, Eunice's began to fade. The woman who once danced around the house with joy now struggled to climb the stairs. Every chore drained her. Every day felt heavier than the last. The doctors had warned her. "You'll need rest. You only have one kidney now. No stress." But in a home where sacrifice was taken for granted, rest became a luxury. She did everything. Cleaned, cooked, served, smiled. Until one quiet afternoon, everything snapped. She was alone at home. Mr. John had gone to work. Her head spun. Her legs trembled. Her vision blurred. Then blackness. Her body hit the ground with a dull thud, just as the front door creaked open. It was Mama Eliza, the neighbor who had come to borrow some money. But what she saw wasn't a friend, it was a lifeless body on cold tiles. She screamed for help. The neighbors rushed in. Eunice was rushed to the hospital, unconscious. For hours, she drifted between life and death. When she finally opened her eyes, the doctor stood by her bedside. You collapsed due to exhaustion. Your body is crying for help. This isn't just physical, it's emotional too. And then came the silence. Where was Mr. John? She turned her head slowly toward the door. Empty. She waited and waited, but her husband never came. Later that evening, as nurses moved in and out, Mama Eliza, who stayed with her, asked the painful question. Is this not the same man you gave your kidney to? The same man you almost died for? And he couldn't even come to check if you're alive or dead. Tears rolled down Eunice's face, not because of the pain in her body, but the one in her heart. She stared at the ceiling and whispered, "What did I do wrong?" The next morning, Mr. John finally walked through the door, not of the hospital, but of their house. Freshly dressed, suit ironed, cologne sprayed, like nothing happened. That evening, Eunice returned home with a weak frame and a heavy heart. She looked at him and asked calmly, "Why didn't you come?" He shrugged. "I was busy. I had meetings. And besides, you had people around." His words were cold. His tone was dry. No apology. No hug. No sign of concern. That night, Eunice cried herself to sleep, her pillow soaked, her chest aching, not from surgery, but from betrayal. Things changed. Mr. John stopped talking much. He no longer said, "I love you." He no longer asked if she was okay. He came home late. He ate alone. He stared at his phone while she sat across from him at the table. Misunderstandings crept in like shadows, uninvited, but undeniable. And just 2 months later, on a sunny Sunday, after returning from church, something unthinkable happened. Eunice was in the kitchen preparing lunch. Mr. John was in the living room, flipping through channels. Then came the knock. Mr. John opened the door. Standing outside were his parents. But they weren't alone. Beside them stood a woman from the village, young, beautiful, unfamiliar. They all walked in without greetings or shame. Mr. John didn't seem surprised. He didn't even flinch. Then his mother turned to Eunice and said, "Eunice, please pack your things. Move to the boys' quarters. This is Precious. She's your husband's new wife." Studio microphone, pause, silence hits. Eunice blinked, thinking it was a joke. But their faces didn't carry humor, only entitlement. She turned to her husband. He said nothing. No defense. No anger. No guilt. Just silence. And that silence was louder than a slap. Even angels grow horns when love turns into mockery. They say a woman's silence is not peace. Sometimes, it's the quiet before a storm. After Mr. John's parents dragged Precious into their lives and forced Eunice into the boys' quarters, something inside her broke, but not in a way they expected. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She didn't protest. She simply obeyed. She picked up her clothes with trembling hands, carried them to the dusty, neglected boys' quarters behind the house, and shut the door behind her. That night, she cried like never before. Not because she lost her place, but because the man she gave her kidney for, the man she would have died for, didn't say a single word in her defense. Mr. John had become a stranger. And Precious? She walked into the house like a queen, unaware that she was sleeping in a bed bought by another woman's sacrifice. Days turned to weeks. Eunice now lived as a maid in her own home. She swept the compound. She cooked for Mr. John and his new wife. She cleaned their room, the same room she once called hers. Every time she served food, Precious would smile with mockery. Every time she walked away, she heard laughter behind her back. But still she said nothing. Even Mama Eliza, the neighbor, was shocked by her silence. "Eunice, why are you letting them do this to you? Why don't you leave? Why don't you fight?" But Eunice only smiled and said, "Sometimes silence is louder than noise." One night, as rain poured heavily and thunder roared in the sky, Eunice sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She hadn't slept for days. Her body was deteriorating, but her mind was sharper than ever. That night, something inside her changed. Not her heart, that had already been shattered, but her resolve. She stood up, dressed in plain clothes. and walked out into the rain. She boarded a bike and headed to a private hospital in the next town, a place no one knew her. There, she met a discreet doctor. She sat across from him and spoke with calm but deadly clarity. I need medications. 2 types. One to affect sexual performance gradually, the other for a specific kidney structure. The doctor blinked, confused. Madam, this could seriously harm someone. Why do you need it? Eunice simply smiled and said, He already took my life. I just want to take back what's mine. She left with the package tucked in her bag, and the next morning, she resumed her duties, like nothing happened. Each day, she added a little of the substance to Mr. John's food. Just enough to weaken, not kill. Just enough to make nature do the rest. At first, nothing happened. But slowly, changes began. Mr. John complained of fatigue again. He felt dizzy. He struggled in bed. Precious noticed. Arguments started. Fights followed. The perfect new marriage began to crack. And through it all, Eunice stayed silent, serving them food with a gentle smile, washing their clothes with steady hands, watching quietly as Karma took her first steps. Then, one morning, after another argument echoed from the master bedroom, Eunice walked into the living room with an envelope. She handed it to Mr. John without a word. He opened it. Divorce papers. He blinked, laughed, threw the papers on the table, and said, Good. I've been waiting for this. You should have left long ago. He signed without reading. He didn't ask why. He didn't ask how. To him, it was a victory. To Eunice, it was the beginning. She packed her things quietly, walked past Precious, who smirked proudly, and stepped out of the compound for the last time, leaving behind her kidney, her pain, and her silent revenge in motion. She gave him life. He gave her betrayal. In the end, the universe returned the favor. Every action is a seed. Some grow into blessings. Others bloom into curses. Weeks after signing the divorce papers, Mr. John walked around with a chest full of pride and a smile full of foolishness. He thought he had won. He believed Eunice was gone for good, broken, defeated, irrelevant. He believed he had upgraded. But karma doesn't announce its arrival. At first, the changes were small. Mr. John started waking up with headaches, then fatigue, then something strange. He avoided Precious in bed. At first, she thought he was stressed, then suspicious, then angry. Are you seeing someone else? She shouted one night. You can't even touch me anymore. Mr. John tried to explain, but how could he explain what he didn't understand? He went to the hospital quietly, ran tests. The results? Sir, your kidney is failing again. The words hit him like a bullet. The doctor continued. And your testosterone levels are dropping rapidly. Your system is under unusual stress. Did you consume anything unusual lately? Mr. John couldn't speak. Sweat poured from his forehead as memories flashed. The food. Eunice's food. Every meal since Precious moved in, it was served by the woman he cast aside. He rushed home, trembling. Precious was packing her bags. I'm not staying here with a man who can't touch me. You're sick and useless. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Mr. John fell to the floor, alone. No wife. No peace. No future. Days turned into weeks. The sickness worsened. Dialysis couldn't help anymore. His body was rejecting everything. He tried reaching out to his family, but none of them matched. He tried finding Eunice, but she had disappeared like the wind. And so, 3 months after the divorce, Mr. John died. His funeral was quiet. There were no long speeches. No tears from Precious. Only the wailing of his parents, mourning not just his death, but the guilt they would carry forever. If only we had stood by Eunice. If only we hadn't brought that girl into their home. But it was too late. The damage was done. Somewhere far from that grief, in a new city, Eunice stood in front of a mirror, dressed in white. Her smile had returned, not because she had forgotten the past, but because she had survived it. She was remarrying, this time, not to someone who needed her kidney, but someone who saw her worth without needing to be saved. The man stood by her side, held her hand, and whispered, "I don't care what you've been through. I'm here for what we'll build together." Eunice blinked back tears. Not of sorrow, but gratitude. For once, she had chosen herself. And for the first time in a long time, she was truly free. Moral lessons of the story. Loyalty should never be traded for convenience. What someone sacrifices for you today could be the reason you're alive tomorrow. A good woman is not furniture. You don't replace her when she's worn out. You protect her, the way she protected you. Family should be a shelter, not a storm. If you let your family destroy your marriage, you'll wake up one day with neither. What you do to others will always find its way back. Betrayal doesn't escape karma. It only delays the knock on your door. You don't win by hurting someone who helped you. You lose everything slowly, then all at once. To everyone watching this, if you've ever been used, betrayed, or replaced after giving your all, know this. You didn't lose. They lost someone priceless. And you? You still carry gold in your soul. Never beg to be loved. Never apologize for your loyalty. One day, the people who took you for granted will look around and realize the pillar they destroyed was the only thing holding their house together. So walk away if you must. Heal if you need to. And when you rise again, rise with grace. Because vengeance belongs to the universe, and the universe always pays its debts. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more powerful tales. Share with someone who needs to hear this. Now, would you sacrifice your health for someone you love? And after all Eunice went through, what do you think she should do next? Comment below. Let's hear your thoughts.